few minutes for questions and answers. There's our microphones are circling. Please raise your hand. We'll try to get one to you. Thank you, Senator. Okay.
All right. Yes, sir. Go ahead. There's a microphone right by you.
Thank you for your patience. You probably feel from time to time pretty lonely in the U.S. Senate. And in reference to bending that arc, how would you characterize the degree of cooperation that you're receiving for your ideas, programs, and for your personal self in that august body? And what do you look forward to? What's the direction of their willingness and ability to bend that arc toward justice with you?
Well, you know, people ask me how am I finding the Senate? Is it what I expected? And I'll tell you that in some ways it is what I expected. It's a legislature. And I was in the state legislature, and you know, this is a fancier legislature, but it's still a legislature, which means that it's populated by a broad cross-section of people. You've got people who do extraordinary work. Ted Kennedy is as good as advertised as just being an excellent senator. There's some folks there who you're wondering, how'd you get here? Overall, people have been extraordinarily gracious to me personally. But the fact is, I'm ranked 99th in seniority. When I first arrived, they had me some pencils to sharpen. So here, you got some important tasks. So some of it is just the nature of being in the legislature, where it's difficult, particularly when you're in the minority, to initiate an agenda. I mean, Harry Reid has difficulty getting anything he wants done passed, much less me, which means that for us in this posture to seriously shape an agenda, we've got to have some cooperation from those who control the gavel. What has been the most disappointing thing about the Senate in my first 9 months is the degree of the lack of independence on the part of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. They are taking their marching orders and their talking points from the White House. That has not always been the case. You know, there is a tradition in the Senate that everybody occupies a kingdom unto themselves. That it's not, you know, that there's an institutional pride that used to exist in the Senate that does not seem to exist right now. I don't entirely blame the Republicans because many of them have seen the success that Karl Rove has engineered, and their attitude is, you know, you dance with the ones who brung you. That's why the 2006 election, I think, is so important, because there are Republicans who have better impulses than are on display right now. We have to embolden them by knocking a couple of them out so that they feel that, in fact, there is as much of a price to pay to blindly following the party line as there is in disobeying. And right now they don't feel that pressure. They're more afraid of a challenge from the right in a primary right now than they are from Democratic challengers. And that's why this next election, I think, is going to be so important. Young man right here.
Is my mic? Yeah, okay. What do you think we as individuals in society can do to overcome this ideology of passive indifference that we've witnessed by Katrina? And do you think it should be done on an individual level, or do you think a general system overhaul should occur?
Well, I mean, I think there are a couple of immediate things. The fact is that there is a major ideological battle taking place right now in this country. And I think that we can win it if we can articulate it. Essentially, the other side has an easier job because their argument is essentially what is labeled the ownership society is actually pretty easily articulated. It says we're all in it by ourselves. So if you've got a health care problem, we're going to set up a health care account. We'll put $5,000 in it, and from that point on, you're on your own. You worry about health care inflation. Retirement account. Figure out how much you can save. It doesn't matter that your wages haven't gone up in 4 or 5 years. It doesn't matter that you're being squeezed by all sorts of costs, from $3 a gallon gasoline to the cost of higher education for your child. You figure out how to save. There's a certain attractiveness in its simplicity, that idea. And it's particularly attractive, I think, for those of us who are successful, because it allows us to be self-congratulatory and say, in fact, the cream rises to the top. Look how well we did. Everybody can do what we did. Denying the role of blind luck that played in getting everybody here, or the sacrifices of a generation of women doing somebody else's laundry and looking after somebody else's children to get you here. So I think we have to directly engage that battle. Now, to do so, we've got to be smarter than we've been. We have to acknowledge that, again, we're interested in what works. Where there are market-based solutions to problems, we embrace market-based solutions. But the market fails sometimes. And where it fails, we've got to help people, because that's what's always been done. That's how America grew. The railroads didn't just appear. The internet didn't just magically pop in out of thin air. That was not financed by the private sector. That was financed by the public sector. It was subsidized by the public sector. And so we've got to be intelligent in picking and choosing our spots as we think about how to address that ideological problem. In terms of how each of us serves, I can't answer that question. I think that's something that each of us have to look into our own heart and figure out. I think people can serve powerfully in the private sector. Some of the most exciting innovation being done in education right now is primarily financed by folks in the private sector who are willing to invest huge sums of money into rethinking how our urban schools should be structured, and are doing so in a spirit of innovation. Now, the important thing for those who are working in the private sector is simply don't forget about politics and government. There is nothing wrong with devoting huge amounts of energy to doing good through your church. But let me tell you, unless your church has those big helicopters that can lift people off roofs, understand that the role of the private sector and charity and faith-based initiatives is going to be a supplement to, not a replacement for, public schools that work, or the construction of affordable housing. So, why don't I take, two more now? I don't want to get the program too far behind here. Go ahead.
I'd like to offer Senator Obama a...
No. Well, you all don't want to do that. Plus, it's kind of hot in here. I see folks bringing the fans out. Feel like we're in church. Where's my handkerchief?